Good morning, everyone. It's Yvonne here to do What's Cracking reading. Thank you so much for all your beautiful comments and your support. I'm going to use the Connolly Tarot to do your reading today. I do have fairs coming up, so if you'd like to keep an eye out on my Facebook page, you'll see where I am in the next couple of months if you're in those areas. People still coming to me for personal readings. I'm fully booked out this week. However, I do have some space next week outside of my working hours. So if you want a reading during that time, then I'll be good for next week. All right. Cards are really lively this morning. Sometimes when they want to speak, they call so loudly. The trouble is they're jumping out in bunches, so I won't show you what they are. We'll just get straight into it. Oh, I see why. All right. So we have the card of transition coming through. In the traditional tarot, this is the card of death, the card that represents Scorpio. The card itself talks about some sort of change coming. Now, sometimes with transition, it can be an internal change. It could mean that we have been working on something about ourselves and we're now moving into a new energy. Other times it could be a more physical change. So this can come out, for example, if you're thinking about changing something physically about yourself. Sometimes it can mean a change that is coming towards you, whether you've instigated it or not. But whatever this change is, it can be, something fairly small, but it can be quite sort of life-changing, I want to say. So it's sort of an energy of expect something to be different going forward. Okay, so you're not happy with things as they are. And sometimes we can get into this energy if we're dissatisfied with our own lives, if we're dissatisfied with our work, our job, our partners, our family. But we can get into this energy of sort of looking back and thinking, how can I change something going forward? How can I become more effective at this, or create something, or change something about myself or the world I live in? Because there is disappointment here. All right, so we do have movement. Remember, the knights always signify action is being taken. The wands represent the passion, the drive. So there is something here that's driving you forward because you're not happy with yourself where you are, or not happy with a situation where you are. But you're definitely making changes. Actually, that's really interesting because I saw the Hanged Man. There is a new path opening up for you. I feel like this path was ready. Don't forget, sort of, these things are already pre-written. So if you're on a pathway where you've been doing something a certain way for a while, or putting up with something, or not treating yourself in the best possible way, I feel like you're ready to make those changes, because this pathway that was there for you is now opening up. So I feel here with the Hanged Man, there you have the Ten of Pentacles here. So for some of you, this is definitely around work, career, your own abundance. It doesn't feel like it's sort of like a romantic thing. I feel like it's you feel stuck. You feel that you need to make changes. You're disappointed with the way your life is. You're unsatisfied with what's going on. Sometimes that means sort of sitting in the past a little bit, because you're looking at how things used to be, but wanting to make things different for the future. All right, let's see where we're going. All right, so we have the Four of Swords. Now, to me, this always signifies that some sort of timeout is required. Maybe there's planning to do. Maybe it just means that you need to have a rest for a while before you make a decision. This, for example, could be the hiatus between two jobs, the hiatus between a relationship and the next relationship. Whatever it is, you're taking time out here to have that deep rest. This is sort of, for me, getting back to meditation, getting back to your core needs, but definitely sort of folding it up and taking time out in the world. All right, let's see where we're going. Oh, wow. Okay, so you have the Devil energy coming through next. This is the ego. There's been a lot of energy coming from spirit, even on other people's communications, around understanding where the ego fits into your life. Like I always say, there is a reason for your ego, and it's a very good reason. It keeps you safe. There is an energy here that perhaps you're starting to understand something to do with that with yourself. This sort of feels a little bit like, although we've got the change card there, it actually feels a little bit like Tower energy. There's a realization coming here that you have more power in the situation than what you've realized. But you've got to sort of move across from something that's been holding you in place. For example, if somebody told you you weren't going to amount to anything, or that was all you could have, and you'd been living that way for a really long time, thinking that was it, I feel like something is spurring you on to move. There is something here that is taking you in a brand new direction, but you're leaving those components behind that have held you in place. You're releasing the shackles. You're letting go, like you're releasing these things that have tied you to who you thought you were going to be or who you thought you were. There's a whole change coming through. It's massive. All right, Ace of Pentacles, a brand new beginning, and a King of Cups coming through here. It could be because you've met somebody new. It could be because of a King of Cups. It could be an energy of something that's kept you, or somebody that's kept you trapped. But I have to say, this King of Cups doesn't feel like a person to me. It feels like an energy that's kept you in place. Maybe your father said things to you when you were young that have really stuck with you, and you've never really thought beyond those. I mean, for example, you know, my father would, and I was as skinny as a rake when I was a kid, but my father, my stepfather, would always tell me how fat I was. Like, you have a big ass, like all those sort of things. So I grew up running through 1,000 diets. I read somebody yesterday wrote on something, I've always been on a diet. Well, I think for many of us, the body image thing has been a real thing. And I feel like here it could be because of some sort of energy around you. This can represent a mother figure as well. But somebody here may have given you some sort of negative patterning or negative information that has kept you locked into an energy. And I feel like you're realizing this, and you're starting to want to make the changes that really are impacting you at this time. I have to say, with this Ace of Pentacles though, that's a beautiful energy to have here, because it almost makes me feel you're saying never again. This is a brand new beginning for me. I'm going to start a whole new path. I'm going to make something of myself in my career, but I'm going to be really happy where I am in my life because I've decided to leave some sort of negativity behind that's been holding me back. Some sort of pattern that's kept you chained to your past. All right, so we have the Seven of Swords here, which is definitely self-sabotage. Could be some sort of sabotage. And there's the Tower. I knew it was coming. The Tower for me is a card that breaks down old ideas about ourselves. It means that we've built our lives on a faulty foundation. So say, for example, you had grown up in a family or household in a certain way, and then one day somebody tells you that what you've been growing up in, what you believed about your childhood, is not true. So you find new information out. And that means everything you knew, everything that was said to you, all of those things you were conditioned with, none of them stand anymore because they're not real. They were just programmed into you. I'm trying to think of an example, and I guess there's been 2 or 3 examples where people have raised children that weren't actually their children. I know Jack Nicholson was one of them. His sister actually gave birth to him, but he thought his mother had. And one day he found out his sister was actually his mother. That's the sort of thing that makes you completely melt down and find reasons for why you've been thinking the way you have. This is the Tower energy for me. It's that major epiphany in this particular scenario. It could be to do with a relationship, because we do have this 2 of Cups coming out in the middle. So it could be that you have been dealing with someone who maybe, for some unknown reason, has you thinking that you're something you're not. And let's face it, when you've got that huge empathic sort of personality, it's really easy to manipulate you. Remember, empathy is the result of trauma. When we are over the top with our empathy, I'm not saying normal empathy, like I don't know how you define normal from the damaging. Empathy is necessary for us to understand something else's pain, for us to understand what's going on for somebody else. It is really necessary. But when we start to feel the pain of the world or pain for everybody that cripples us, that is not normal. So when you hear people say, oh, I absorb everybody's pain, that is not normal. That is very unhealthy. So we need to understand, and that's what I realized years ago, is where the boundary lies. Being able to say, okay, that's your pain, not mine. I feel it for you. I understand what you're going through, but I'm not going to take it on as my own. But what happens, especially in relationships, whether they are romantic or whether they are a familial relationship, sometimes people can manipulate that energy. So you end up with narcissistic people coming after that beautiful energy that you have. Is it bad? Absolutely not. It's beautiful energy. But is it damaging to you? Absolutely. Because sometimes you take on the world's pain. You know, for a while there, I couldn't even watch bad movies. I couldn't watch the news. I couldn't watch anything. I shut down from everything because I would walk away really sad and really miserable and not really understanding why. So that's taking on the pain of the world. And that is what we try to drown in our sorrows. For some unknown reason here, you're being asked to look at the relationships around you or the situations around you that are dragging you down. Because whoever you're dealing with here is making you feel somewhat responsible for their pain. It's changing though because the Tower's here. All right, so I have the Knight of Cups with the Four of Pentacles and the Hierophant. Now I'm actually feeling here that you're letting go of something with this Four of Pentacles that's going to help you find more stability here. Now again, for some of you, this could be in your workplace. It could be that in your job that you are getting blamed for things that are not your fault, but you don't know how to stand up for yourself. You may be the scapegoat because I have this self-sabotage energy that's coming through here, and I can't help feeling for many of you, you may be the scapegoat in something, which means that you are continually blamed for things that go wrong, or you may just feel responsible for them. Ask yourself, why do I feel responsible for other people? I can remember this happening when I was a child. I was on a bus travelling somewhere and I looked out the window, and at the very moment I looked out the window of a bus, this older lady fell over. And I remember beating myself up for ages over that because I kept thinking it was me looking at her that made her fall. I know that we are really dragged down by our own emotions in that regard. And this is why I say to people, that is where logic is so much more important than your emotions. Because obviously I didn't make her fall over, and no matter what I'd done, I wouldn't have made her fall over. If I'd have been logical about it then, I would have said to myself, don't be silly, that is not your fault. Not your responsibility, not your emotion to take on. But I didn't understand my own emotions at that time. I'd always thought that it was my fault everything happened. Maybe that's sort of a little bit selfish too. But I did feel responsible for the world. I'd get really upset when people littered. I'd get really upset when, people abused children or animals or other people or domestic violence. And I would emotionally feel that to the point where I would feel crippled by that amount of emotion. If you're doing that, then that needs to change here. You need to make a decision to understand why you take on everybody else's pain. Whatever this is here, you are bringing in a greater stability by even just recognizing that this needs to change within you. Are you always responsible for your children? Do you know how to say to your children, well, you're an adult now, I shouldn't need to feel the responsibility? You do things because you want to, sure, but why feel responsible for that? But anyway, I will just have a recap here and we'll look at an oracle card. So you're making a change. You're making a change here. You are disappointed with the way things have turned out in your life, or you're disappointed with an aspect of your life, and you're taking action to move in a brand new direction. This is about releasing an old way of thinking and moving towards what is your abundance here. All right, let's read an oracle card. Whoop, wow. That sort of flipped over there, but I think I have two. No, I only have one. All right, well, Spirit is talking about the Deer of Delta. Card 26. Without any force, you can overcome even extreme negativities. I have a feeling we've had this one before. Your real nature is gentle, which is powerful in its own unique way. You do not need to become something you are not. You can confidently and effectively invoke spiritual protection from the light. You can never be dominated or bullied at a spiritual level because the real you is always empowered and protected in the light. I have read this before this week, or maybe last week. I feel this is about, you know, and again, I will use my own example because I think it will help some of you. I always got told I was too sensitive. Yvonne's too sensitive. What a sensitive child. It was never seen as a positive, ever. It was seen as a negative thing. And people used to say to me right into all my relationships as an adult, you need to toughen up. And I remember trying. To be something I wasn't. And of course, that's not what you're meant to do. The day I woke up and realised that I could accept my sensitivity, but I didn't have to let people bleed me of that or be negative towards that. Now, if somebody said that to me, I think I'd probably lose my barrel. But I feel like I need to say this to some of you. You are never too anything. You are never too much, too sensitive, nothing. You are never too much. You are who you are. And I feel that this is what this is saying here, that although you're changing the way you do things, this doesn't mean you're changing who you are. You're just recognizing things in a very different way. But ultimately, you are protected by spirit. So maybe it's just finding a different way of seeing things, a different way of understanding yourself in the whole scheme of things. But somehow or another, I can't help feeling that you may be dealing with somebody here in a relationship that has you believing that you are something that you are not, and you are taking the responsibility on for that. Something is about to change. You're going to let go of something and move in a brand new direction here. And I feel that's what you're needing to do at this time. All right, I'll leave you with that. Thank you.